that was not the intent of this talk to make this a provocative story, but okay. I'm going to try to figure out where I'm going to put that in. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick McFadin, and so I work for a company called Datastax. We're the company that just loves Apache Cassandra, but we also love Apache Spark, too, and I'm going to prove it to you, hopefully. I have to. So here's what we can just take as a base assumption. Cassandra, established, really good at storing a ton of data. I love this quote right here. I see this all the time because I'm in the Cassandra community, but you can assume people at scale are probably using Apache Cassandra because it was built to do that, and great. So, and this is kind of a funny segue. Hello, Reynold. Spark is really good at analyzing a ton of data, and that's a really interesting combination when you put them together like we see now. And that's what we've done at Datastax is we build the Spark connector for Apache Cassandra. And that combination has been really powerful, and some of the neat things that are happening inside not only in community but in industry because of this combination. So what has been the community response to this? This is about 1.5 years ago that we released this. It has been absolutely overwhelming. This is a picture from a talk that I did at Strata a few weeks ago. Do you notice that there's people standing? The talk was about doing time series analysis using Apache Spark and Cassandra, and standing room only. And this is what we see over and over and over. Whenever I start talking about analyzing data on Cassandra using Spark, this is the kind of response I get. And it's not just, wow, this seems like a really buzzy thing. No, they're really trying to solve some problems. So what problems do we have? What are we trying to solve with this combination? So this is a typical use case for Cassandra. And that's where I always like to start with these two things together. So let's say we have an IoT application, weather station collecting a lot of data, that sort of thing. You're dumping this high-velocity data into an Apache Cassandra cluster. Great. You're probably serving it up for a mobile application, for a web application. That is a very typical use case for Apache Cassandra. Now, what happens now whenever I need to analyze that data? Aha, that's when we bring in Spark. And enriching that data is what it's about for when we add Spark with Cassandra. Because a lot of times we're collecting data at such a high speed, it's difficult to do things like roll-ups and putting in the data that you can use on your mobile phone. Think about like a high and a low temperature for the day. Well, in addition to that, Spark jobs running overnight is going to do things really interesting for, say, in the batch. But even more important is that what's happening now. And that's where we bring in Spark streaming. So this is a very typical use case where we see a lot. And this is, you can repeat this over and over, where we have Spark streaming analyzing this data in the stream, dumping it into Cassandra at the speed that Cassandra can work at, and then you do the Spark jobs afterwards to roll it up and do that sort of thing. So you can look at most use cases, and they follow this pattern. Now, why is it that I have two different data centers here, one running Cassandra and one running Spark? And this is what we've done to make it work well, is Cassandra is built around, it was first thing it was built around, its first principle was replication. Replication is not something you mess around with Cassandra, because that's what it does really well. So when I have data pouring into that transactional work center or workload, and it's going into onto this side of my cluster, that's going to be high-speed data. It could be millions of writes per second. I'm serving up that data in milliseconds. That's a really transactional workload. But as that data is going into the transactional workload side of that data center, logical data center, it's automatically getting replicated into the analytics cluster. So wait a minute, hold on. Automatically. This means now that the jobs of Spark jobs running on top of Cassandra can be manipulating data that's coming in real time without ETL. OK, let me repeat that, because I saw some disbelievers. No ETL. I don't know if you've ever done ETL in production. It sucks badly. It loses data. It's expensive. And it takes, I mean, sometimes when you lose that data, you don't know it. So doing ETL is really, for me, it's very 1999 when I did that. takes me back to my Oracle days, which gives me PTSD. Um, so no ETL now, as I enrich that data in the transactional side, or in the analytics side, as I'm manipulating the data and saving it back into Cassandra, that can get replicated back into my transactional side, and I can serve it up on my mobile phone, on my web app, what have you, without, again, the ETL process getting in the way. So this is an awesome combination, and this is how we deploy it with Datastax Enterprise. Datastax Enterprise has a suite of really cool things that are added to Apache Cassandra, but the analytics, our part of our analytics game is really about what we do with Apache Spark. So I've given you the use cases, and I've heard this because I travel around a lot. I do a lot of talks on this. I get this a lot. Oh, that's just a lot of talk, right? No one's doing this. There's some obvious jokes here, but no one's doing this in production. This is a big dream of a bunch of nerds that are doing things that no one put into production. You're maybe right. No, you're not. There's a little company in Washington. They were a startup a while back, and they're really doing well now. They're doing this in production today. That company is called Microsoft. This is a real use case. They also have a little product you may have heard of. It's called Microsoft Office. Yes, Microsoft Office uses Apache Cassandra and Apache Spark in production. And it's a very cool use case. Typical problem. They're doing event data, a lot of event data. 10 terabytes a day of event data. That's a terrifying problem. And to solve that problem, you have to have the right tool. And that it's always increasing. And that's even more terrifying if you're in a production trying to solve these problems in a big production environment, especially one that has a bottom line like Office. So this was the quote that I love. This is the one that makes you start searching for solutions that work. Whenever you have, oh, we're going to be doubling this every 8 months, I'm getting another job. And this is another issue that they're facing with. It's like, we are now in this global economy with data, and they have to think about where their data is. And Microsoft, being a global company and having users around the world, they need to make their data available to users wherever they are. And they have quite a bit. Microsoft has 19 data centers in Azure because they want to be closer to users. So here's the setup for this. This is the way that they do it. I'm taking this right out of their presentation, but I mean, if you look, this is kind of what I showed you before. Hey, here's a bunch of data coming in. It's going to Cassandra. We're using Spark to analyze it. The bottom cluster there, 200,000 events per second, and that number is going to get bigger. Oh, everybody's got their phone up now. That's a real material number. Now, that will probably grow to 500,000 and 1 million probably by next year. And they're ready to grow with that because they have 2 technologies that scale at that. Great. Microsoft also has a problem that, very timely, that I'm here in the EU because of this problem. This just happened. I don't know if you saw this. It used to be okay for US companies to bring data into the US from the EU under this safe harbor provision. Well, the Data Protection Commissioner said, nope, not allowed anymore. This is not a good deal for people that are working with data in an international sense. But Apache Cassandra has an option, or as a feature, can help you manage that. I'll give you a quick example. So if I set up a product catalog, which doesn't have any personal data, which isn't underneath those data protection laws, that's something I can replicate around the world. That's not a big deal. So I set up my replication factor in 3 different data centers. I have one in Germany, one in Ireland, and then one in Northern Virginia. And those are now replicating 3 times in each place. Awesome. That's not a problem. But what if I have personal data? I don't let it cross those borders. Well, you can set it up so easily with the replication so that replication is 0 in the US. So now that data is guaranteed not to cross the border. This is a configuration. This is auditable. You can show in an audit event that this is the setup for our cluster. So this does help quite a bit with data protection laws, and Microsoft would use it. There are others that are using it. It's pretty cool. So how about an example a little closer to home? I don't know if any of you from the UK, but you probably use this. British Gas. So they have this really cool little thing called Hive active heating. It's a It's a mobile application. It's a thermostat in your house. And if you're familiar with Nest, that's a really cool little thing. 300,000 customers. This is a 200-year-old company that's modernizing quickly. They have to realize the 21st century is here, and so they're building this. So I love this statement here. It's very typical. It's the, wow, I have a lot of data coming. And it's typical in the case of these Internet of Things problems, which it sounds like a hypey term, Internet of Things. We're doing that. We're putting IP addresses on random things, like light bulbs. My light bulb has an IP address. I have to plug in my book. Welcome to the 21st century. This should look very familiar, but this is a copy and paste scenario. But in this case, it is for their Hive active heating. They have the thermostats reporting to a hub. They have the boilers reporting their information. This is in every home, and that data is going into the data center and being analyzed in real time. This use case right here, I could point this out to a lot of different production use cases, but this is very compelling. British Gas is very public about what they're doing here, and the things that you can get out of that data, the nuance. If you know that the gas is on, what can that tell you about someone's home? It's a little creepy sometimes, but I like it. You data scientists are probably getting really excited now, aren't you? You could figure out little things like, hey, you left your heater on when you walked out of your house because the mobile application that serves it knows where you are. That's kind of cool. You know, Google bought Nest for $3 billion. Why do you think they did that? You think they had a board meeting and they said, you know what? We need a thermostat. Let's pay $3 billion for a thermostat. No. I have a Nest in my house. Guess who knows when I'm there or not? Nest. It's pretty creepy, but Google loved it. They want the data, and that data is real time. And so this is what's the kind of use cases we're seeing, because analyzing that data, there's real value in that. So hopefully I showed you a couple really legitimate use cases, zero hype, real money, and this scenario is amazing, but it's not a handshake, right? It's not a handshake at all. This is a love story. So thank you very much.